Hello and welcome back from the break. I hope you enjoyed the beautiful light that there was at this time in Cuenca. And there's something I need to clarify about the shuttle service that will be waiting at the end of the sessions. So there's bus number 1 who exits from here, from the MUPA, and goes to the NH Hotel, and then to the localization point in Cuenca called Granja Victoria, and from there to Torremangana Hotel. This is bus number 1. Then we have bus number 2, who exits from MUPA, goes to NH Hotel, then to Granja Victoria, but then goes to Auditorio José Luis Perales, which is 10 minutes walk to the Parador. So if you need to go to Cuenca downtown, you better take bus 2. And now I hope you're ready for our final session today with a vital topic: keeping talent in the territory, young and old people, as city change makers. And I give the floor again to Juana López Fagan, who will lead this discussion.
Good afternoon, everyone. I hope you enjoy the day, the discussion, the lunch, the networking, the conversations, and I hope you can enjoy this last session. I promise, or I have the promise, to manage this session in 1 hour with the participant of this nice session. For me, it's a pleasure again to intervene and to moderate this session, because one of other priorities that we put in the agenda of the Spanish presidency is about keeping talent in the territory, especially for young people. And the people that intervene in this session, I'm sure, can share with us many experience that we put in the table, in the priorities, in the recommendation, and for sure in the idea of to build these public policies for the present and the future, and in hand-to-hand with young people. I only show you again one slide that you can see that this is one of our priorities of the Spanish presidency. And we developed 2 weeks ago a high-event level about the talent and territory and future. And we have the opportunity to share this high-level event with a group of universitaries, young people that participate in one of the main initiatives of the Ministry of Ecological Transition and Democratic Challenge, the program Campo Rural. Campo Rural is a wonderful initiative that I hope in the future will be a European initiative. Campo Rural is a program that we built together with the universities of Spain, public universities of Spain, inspired in some of them universities. One of them is the University of Castilla-La Mancha. It's an internship from universitaries to do their first experience of work in the rural areas, and the feedback that we receive is amazing. And this is very connected with one of the European Union perspective that launched in the last week for the Vice Presidency of Demographic and Democratic in the European Commission. That I think in last week we launched the communication about the Toolbox Demographic Challenge. So this is the idea of this session. Now I know that we have a lot of delay, and the Deputy Chief of Cabinet of the Commissioner, Dubravka Šuica, is waiting for us. She's online, so she's the first speaker. So if the technical team connect to her, I pass the word, please. Desra, Shen. Thank you very much. I'm sorry for the delay, dear.
Worries at all. And unfortunately, I was not able to take part in person to this event. And I'm actually missing the whole fun part of the event, just making the presentation, but losing on connecting, on networking together with you. And that's really a pity. I really wanted to start first to thank the Spanish presidency, because it's really, this whole toolbox is a result of a joint effort together with the Spanish presidency, and everything that you have done over the past months and in preparation of the presidency to put demography very high on the council agenda is really something that that has made a lot of difference. I've been asked to present very briefly the demography toolbox that we have presented couple of, well, not days, but 2 weeks ago. I don't know if you can put the presentation or the slides on the screen, is if there is a way of doing it from your side, or am I supposed to do it from here? But I can't hear you, unfortunately.
You can share directly with the, I don't know if you are in Zoom or Team, but you can share.
Is there a way that you
To share a screen.
where?
Yeah, it's now we can see.
I don't know if you can see my screen or not.
See the screen?
Okay, but whatever. I will just say a few words on the demography toolbox, and I'll try to make it quick, and then potentially to answer some of your questions. So when it comes to this demography toolbox, the whole point was that we have been invited by the European Council from June this year to develop this demography toolbox to help member states cope with the demographic challenges. And the objective was really to look into demography and into demographic challenges from this very perspective of economic growth and of competitiveness. Now, you will ask me, why does it even matter, demography in the context of competitiveness and economic growth? And this is where territories come in. There is a real sense of urgency to act on the European level, because what we observe in terms of challenges when it comes to demography, we have these plummeting birth rates, we have this rapid aging that is really concerning everybody. We have this brain drain and depopulation that is going on, the territorial disparities that are becoming more and more obvious. Then this huge pressure on public budgets that does not leave any fiscal space to intervene from the public dimension anywhere else. And the issue is that when we take all these different challenges together, if we leave them unaddressed, the problem is that this demographic change risks really negatively impacting the EU's long-term competitiveness. Now, before presenting the demography toolbox, what we did is that we conducted on one side the Eurobarometer to see what citizens think about these demographic challenges. And also what we did the demography mapping together with the member states to see what are the challenges that they are facing. And one thing that we could see is that the demographic challenges are very different from one member state to another. So, for example, if you take Croatia, the key demographic challenge is brain drain. If you take Italy, it is plummeting birth rates. If you take Spain, most of the elements that we got is rural depopulation and depopulation. If we take Netherlands, it's housing, for example. But the two horizontal challenges that concern every single member state, on one side it's aging, and on the other side is the shrinking working age population. So what we are trying to do with the demography toolbox is really to tackle these two horizontal challenges, which is aging and the shrinking working age population. So when it comes to the shrinking working age population, what we try to do with the toolbox is to divide this human capital that we have in four different pillars. We start with parents because, and it's not by accident that we start by parents, because we are trying to tackle this element of plummeting birth rates. And here the message we have is really, you don't have to choose. You don't have to choose between having children and having a career, because we do have tools from the EU level to cater for the need to have both at the same time. And here you will see that under each pillar of the demography toolbox, there are key elements that come from the EU level. There are next steps, and I'm happy to answer to any of the questions you might have on there. On when it comes to youth, what we are trying to do is really to combine the mix and the skills and the talents that we have with the real needs on the labor market, and to make sure that our regions and our territories, that they are not victims of these green and digital transitions, that they are all winners of the green and digital transition. And there we capitalize very much on the harnessing talent communication that we published in January this year, but also on the talent booster mechanism that I guess you have been touching upon as well. When it comes to the older persons, here we venture into a very new dimension of a longevity society and longevity economy, because we see older people from a different perspective. We are trying to switch from a purely aging society and aging economy into a longevity society and longevity economy. And the difference is that we are really trying to capitalize on the longevity dividend to make the best of the additional 10 or 20 or 30 years that we have to live. And what we have seen is that all our policies and all our institutions have been designed in the past, basically, for much shorter lifespans, for lifespans of around 65, 70, 75 years. And the issue now is that we live much, much longer. And our institutions, for example, 50% of children born today, they will live all the way up to 96 or 97. And the issue is that our institutions and our policies are definitely not designed to cater for the needs of these European centenarians. So what we need to do is to make sure that we adjust to this new and to this different demographic reality of Europe. And the last element is migration. Actually, we should call it legal migrants, because what we see and what we know is that in addition to harnessing all the talents that we have from within, we will absolutely need to fill in the gaps on the labor market to also rely on legal migrants. But now, there again, the story is a little bit different from this typical migration, because we're very much into circularity and into cross-fertilization of talents and of brains. And the whole point is not to deplete our neighbors and third countries from their talents, but really to cross-fertilize their talents and to make sure that we actually help their development as well. And today the college has adopted this new talent pool with regard to third countries. So this is the first outcome of very directly from the demography toolbox. Now, what is important from your dimension is that all these four pillars are very much anchored into the territorial dimension, because demography, when we try to intervene from the EU level, is extremely territorial. The only possibility we have to act is this territorial level. It's the Article 174 of the treaties, where very, very clearly we have this reference to demographic challenges and to helping regions coping with their demographic handicaps. Now, when it comes to the toolbox, this is kind of a representation of what the toolbox looks like. What you have in yellow are all the different tools that are already available, but that we will further adjust to the needs of these demographic challenges. And what is blue are the new elements that we are adding and that we are trying to develop in order to better help member states to deal with the demographic challenges. And I come to the very last slide of this presentation that I sincerely hope you can see in the room, and it's about operationalizing the toolbox for this longevity-ready Europe. And there we have three pillars to operationalize it. The first one is about reinforcing the data and the evidence base. And there, what we are trying to do is everything that we have in terms of tools, we are going to optimize them so that they are really available and ready to be used to make sure that we capitalize on these data and statistics and knowledge to build better policies. The second element is really the mainstreaming of demography. It's showing that demography is not a silo of its own. It really concerns as much the regional policy, territorial policy. It concerns also the migration dimension, so the home policy. It concerns the jobs, the social dimension. So it's extremely cross-cutting. And at the same time, it's good, but at the same time, it's rather bad because there are very few countries where we actually, very few member states where we actually really have interlocutors dealing with demography. So Spain, we are lucky with Spain and with the Spanish presidency because there is indeed a minister in charge of demography. So we really have an interlocutor. And that's probably also why we managed to do so much under the Spanish presidency in relation to demography. But there are many countries where this is actually not the case. And even when it comes to institutions, we don't have council formations dealing with demography. We don't have parliamentary committees dealing with demography. It's very cross-cutting, and it's always very difficult to find the responsible, be it interlocutor or forum to discuss it. And the last element in relation to operationalizing is to ensure that nobody and no region is left behind. And this is the very demonstration and the very confirmation that demography is extremely territorial. And here we capitalize very much on the launch of the Harnessing Talent platform that we will launch at the end of this month. We capitalize on the Rural Vision Report, on the Rural Action Plan, on the creation of regional innovation valleys, and on cohesion funds altogether, and on the midterm review. So the whole idea of this communication is really to say that the point is to combine at the same time the efforts done on the local, regional, and national level, together with what we can provide from the EU level, and to make sure that member states know that the Commission is there to really support member states to use the tools and to continue to develop them. So I will stop here with the presentation. And I'm ready, obviously, to answer to any of the questions that you may have. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Desra, for your presentation and for the efforts to put in the European agenda many things that appear finally in this important toolbox. I have the opportunity to share with the Vice President in Geneva and in another some events, and we are totally aligned. As you say, Spain have a ministry with this responsibility, with the responsibility of demographic challenge, and you know that you count with us to build together. One of the questions that appear in this toolbox for this session, to focus in this session is, as you said, the idea of harnessing talent, the brain drain, and linking to the young people. And now we have the opportunity to hear one of the principal actors for that from the Spanish government identified that is universities, the people that study in the universities, not only for the program as a Campo Rural, because we think that the talent, the knowledge is very important that are linked into the territory, not only in the big cities. So this is the idea, to think about that, to reflect about that, to understand and to know this kind of experience. As I say at the beginning, we inspired in program as the University of Castilla-La Mancha launched some years ago, and now we have a national program. So I invite to the Rector of Castilla-La Mancha, Julián Grande. Thank you very much. I know you have to leave very, very fast, but the floor is yours. Puedes hablar, por supuesto, desde atril o desde ahí, como estés más cómodo. Es un honor para nosotros que esté Rector y creo que estamos con vuestro trabajo, vuestro conocimiento y vuestro esfuerzo. Muchísimas gracias.
And we always recognize your effort and your work. Thank you very much. Thank you. First of all, and before I start with my contribution, I would like to excuse myself because I will need to leave at some point, as I have a commitment at 6:30. First of all, I would like to thank the organizers for the invitation. As the General Director said, we, as the University of Castilla-La Mancha, are the only university in the autonomous region, with the exception of the University of Alcalá, which has been appointed the responsibility of coordinating higher education across the region. And very briefly, in this current academic year, with undergraduate, graduate, and master's studies, we will have around 26,000 students. We'll have 4 campuses, Cuenca, Toledo, Ciudad Real, and Albacete, and 2 headquarters in Talavera de la Reina and Almadén. I would like to explain this because together with the government of Castilla-La Mancha, we are the institution that is more present across the region. Apart from high training, high education, research, and knowledge, we put in practice a program that aims to bring to our students nearer to the rural world. We put this program in action in 2021, and then we joined the very positive call from your ministry known as Campus Rural. In the course of these last 3 years with the program, and I say 3 years because we'd already had 2 more prior years with financing from the 4 provincial bodies, from the regional government, and from the Castilla-La Mancha network of groups for rural development. And in these last 3 to 4 years, the number of companies and public institutions that wanted to receive and host our students in the rural areas has increased by 182%. So there is a wide acceptance of the program within the institutions. The number of students that have done the practical work experience program has increased from the first to the third edition by 32%, and the number of months that we were able to fund has increased by 126%. These are just figures that show that the program is successful in the region, and thanks to your program, the program led by the ministry, we also hosted students in other provinces and autonomous regions, not only in Castilla-La Mancha. It is clearly beneficial for the municipalities and for students alike, and it goes without saying that some of these people have actually found a contract. They were offered a contract after the training period in municipalities, sometimes of less than 100 inhabitants. And I would like to mention 2 things, and I need to hurry up because I need to leave very quickly. First of all, we do not limit calls to municipalities of less than 5,000 inhabitants. We do not do that because it would be unfair to do so. In our autonomous region, 90% of municipalities belong to a rural environment, and we have municipalities with some 5,300 inhabitants that may have larger problems than smaller ones. So we don't do that distinction, although you might read it somewhere. That's on the one hand. On the other hand, and it can come as a surprise, the students, the undergraduate and master's students that have enjoyed this practical work experiences come from all types of studies, from all disciplines. And we were really surprised about this, particularly in year 1, because you always tend to think about agricultural engineering, mountain engineering, biotechnologies, science, environmental sciences, etc. Nothing like that. Students come from all sorts of studies, and as a consequence of this, we have been developing a larger number of activities around the program, the Campus Rural program, which I will not go into the details now. But there are 2 questions that I would like to highlight. We've had an increasing number of institutions joining the program. We have specific program in place exclusively for pharma students called Rural Pharmacy, and which is funded by pharmaceutical cooperatives. So this increases the number of students that these training programs actually can attract. We started in 2021, and it is true that for younger students that can give a lot to these municipalities and who also do receive a lot in return from these municipalities, spending 3 months in small village of 50 inhabitants can become quite hard. Actually, some of them just walked out. They abandoned the program altogether. So from the second year, we put in place what we have decided to call rural innovation projects. These are cooperative projects where students from different disciplines attend and take part, and they tackle, they work around problems that are very cross-cutting in nature. The last experience was this very summer, just gone, in the Almaden region, where students developed a project geared towards improving healthcare in an integrated manner. The group was made up by two physiotherapists, or physiotherapy students rather, one social educator, one social worker, and a doctor, a physician. And they did a multi-skill, multidisciplinary and cross-cutting a project with the participation of the people from the region and also the participation of different businesses. I will just finish with this. In the course of these last 3 years, we've realized that this focus, this approach, in order to resolve multidisciplinary and cross-cutting problems do have a very positive result. And that's all from me. Thank you again for the invitation, and maybe we will be able to tell you more about the rest of the activities we do some of the time working for the rural world. And as I said at the onset, we are very proud of the university from this region, a clearly rural region. And since we want to be relevant in our area, we decided to launch this initiative that has been growing thanks to your help in recent years. Thank you.
Ahora se oye, sí, por quedarme aquí sentada medio segundo antes de que te marches. Bueno, primero, por supuesto, una vez más agradecer vuestra colaboración.
Well, first of all, I would like to thank you for your cooperation, your inspiration in this program, and your reflection about how we make progress together. I must say that these practical work experience programs in the rural means have a series of clear objectives, but then what happens? What comes after this? And in the meeting we held a couple of weeks ago in La Granja in Segovia, as I said, we did a European meeting or encounter. But previously, we had encountered with a group of students from the former two editions of Rural Campus, Campus Rural, where we went over what they did in the course of their practical work experiences, and we don't have the time to go into the detail now, but the feedback we received was really relevant because it actually does help us improve our policies. It helps us identify some issues that we might find difficult to identify, and because they do so, they gave us their feedback from kind of first-hand feedback. We, just as you do, we have our students for about 3 to 5 months. We want to improve the communities. We want them to be connected. We want them to help each other. But in that, what happens next, we have actually managed almost 1,000 students in virtually 2 years through the signing of agreements with universities, and I would like to thank my fantastic team of people, with Clara, Alicia, Leticia, and others who have been fighting hard so that these students can live the best experience possible. And I believe, and I am actually positive, that Campus Rural is only just starting. I look at ESPON colleagues, if they are listening to me, and I think this is an area that's worth discussing when we have the time. And before you leave, so that you can listen and hear out from Carolina, we just had to change the order of the interventions. Carolina Gutierrez is the General Deputy Director of the Ministry of Agriculture, and would like to give our warm greetings to the Director. We have excellent coordination between the two ministries. We had the opportunity to talk at your event in Sigüenza about Campus Plus Rural, and what we want ultimately is to complement from our actions and through our actions, complement the things that you have been doing with the different governments and particularly with the Ministry of Agriculture with these programs that I'm sure you tell us more about in a minute. Julian will be able to listen for maybe 3 minutes and then he'll have to leave. Thank you. Carolina, you have the floor.
Here comes the challenge, fix to the 10 minutes time and grab your attention at this time of the afternoon. And then I'm gonna speed up. Sorry for the language services, I'm gonna change to Spanish to speed up. Sorry. So, gracias a los compañeros del Ministerio de Transición Ecológica y Reto Demográfico, a ESPON, y gracias por invitar al Ministerio de Agricultura porque esto demuestra también la colaboración que debe haber entre administraciones.
Collaboration that we need to have between the national administrations, regional administrations, local administrations. I will try to be very brief and present the ideas that I wanted to share with you today. At the end of the day, from the Ministry of Agriculture, we are a sectorial ministry, so we work for and with the agricultural sector. You can imagine the number of years that we've been devoted to this task, but I wanted to share with you today some of the tools that we use. The analysis has been made. We are at an ESPON forum, and I am really overwhelmed by the type of analysis that you carry out, the granularity of them. I will not go into this myself because I think this is done perfectly well, but I will share with you some of the tools that we use that can be inspiring for you and that can help finding new partnerships. I would like to give an answer to what are the rural youth needs. This is a very complex question, but I think that this has been very clearly defined here today. How have we tried to give a response to this question? I would like to get inspiration from my colleague from Germany, Heike. I loved her role-playing or her interactive question. I will not ask for anybody to turn on the lights, but I would like you to raise your hands if you know what the National Rural Network is. Now is called RedTag, but out of the audience, who knows what the Rural Network is? There are these national rural networks in each of the European countries. Could you please raise your hands if you know what these are? Well, not a good number of people from the audience know what these are. Well, this is inspiring for us to keep working. This is funded by the Rural Development Funds from the European Union. What we aimed for with this network is to connect all the actors related to the rural world. So this is my first proposal for you today. Please let's all of us use this network. We have changed our name. We are not dealing with rural development funds. We are also using the PAC funds, and let's make use of whatever it is that we might need in the rural world. We have just launched a survey aimed at the youth in Spain, and we wanted to learn about their needs in the rural area, and it corroborates what we have seen, all of us. We obtained the answers, the replies of over 1,000 people, and it was very gratifying to see how many young people said that they were particularly happy with living in the rural areas. But there's always a but, of course. They have certain demands, and I am insisting on some of the things that we have seen today, and I've only collected some of their answers, but among their concerns, we see access to employment and access to basic services. We have gathered more detailed specifications regarding these concerns, the need for receiving training, support for entrepreneurship, the improvement of infrastructure connecting to other centers, the road bandwidth, and this is where this is more connected to my sector, the agricultural sector, what it really lies in the hands of the Ministry of Agriculture. I am profiting from the fact that Julian is still here. This is why I'm going so fast over these topics. I want to focus in one of the plans that we have. This survey that we carried out served us as the justification. From the rural network. We decided to ask ourselves what we could do from the NRN to attend to some of these needs. And these are some of the actions that we have carried out. For instance, the publication of best practices. At the end of the day, what we're looking for is to find inspiration from one another. And we are gathering all these best practices. We also have online training courses, also events in the rural areas for entrepreneurs so that they get to know each other, so that they can connect between them and inspire each other. We also publish the result of resources, such as the thing that you need to, what things you need to bear in mind when you want to be an entrepreneur. One of the things that really called caught our eye when we were doing these exploratory studies was that the youth in the rural areas were not bound to associate, to get associated. So what we have promoted through this network is to promote the getting together of young people so that they can build associations. This might happen in other countries, but in Spain, we didn't see that there was a great vocation towards association. Now, moving toward the agri sector, we have said it today, the agri sector is not only agricultural sector, but it is indeed an important part within the rural areas. So from the ministry, we are clearly supporting it. So on the side of the needs that I have just presented and that the youth told us about, what were the other demands that from the youth that were devoted to working in the agri sector? One of them was the need for being accompanied while in their professional journey and to offer them practical training, not in universities, but rather practical training. Sometimes the youth start in the agri sector and they need some accompaniment. This is why we launched a program called Cultiva. And there's also a clear demand that I suppose we see in other countries as well, which is the need of having access to financial support. Very often, banks deny loans to the young people in this sector because they do not have any credit records. And from the Ministry of Agriculture, we are promoting the implementation of this instrument, which is a financial instrument with a centralized management. These are national funds purely from the Ministry of Agriculture, not co-funded by the European funds, but maybe we should consider the possibility of escalating this project or combining it with other projects so that we can receive European funds. And the funds are aimed at the rural development. This is growing really fast at the moment, and I will tell you a bit more about that in a minute. Now, the program Cultiva aimed at providing tools to youth that were already working in this sector. We offered them training stays so that they could visit like model farms from other agricultural, from other farmers, so that young people working already in the sector, visiting the Morelic farmers' premises, they think you need to think that these people already have their companies going and they have a sort of an exchange, and for 15 days they need to leave their own farms in order to share knowledge with other farmers. So we cover all their expenses during these 2-week programs. What we thought would only be a very specific relationship that would only last for 15 days actually become long-lasting relations. We have been having this project for 2 years, and what we see is that they call each other, they ask each other questions on a daily basis because they create this connection between this experienced farmer and this young farmer that sometimes requires some help, some opinions from someone more experienced. Why did I want Julian to stay and listen to this? All my team is aimed at and this is something that people have demanded from us. This program is only aimed at young people already working in the agri sector. But what happens with the demands that we see, that we've seen today? We really need to attract people for the rural world and for the agri sector. We need to think about all these people who are not working in the rural areas and in the rural sector, the agricultural sector. And I think it's very important to find the synergies between our program and other ongoing programs. Maybe people who are not already working in this sector might visit one of our modelic farms and start being interested about this sector. Somebody who has not been, who has not known anything about the sector before might find it difficult to access the sector. I understand that maybe in the rural campus there might be already some practices and apprenticeships in the rural area in farms, but maybe it's something that we could explore together. Thank you, Julian, for your presence, and I hope to see you soon. Also, I wanted to talk about the access to financial support. This is something that is not only aimed at young people, this is for anybody who wants to work in the agri sector and that work already in certain specific activities in the rural world. We're talking about very specific loans and in the face of any default, I have to say that this instrument has been in place for 3 years and we haven't had any defaults. But if there were any, this would be covered by the rural development funds, and only 20% of any losses would be covered by the bank. I don't know if somebody works with banks in the room, but this is something that banks love because their risk that they take up is very low, because this has enabled us to give loans to young people working in the rural areas in the agri sector. So we are really excited with the reaction and the response that we have seen to this project in this period from 2014 to 2022. Only 3 regions decided to devote some funds to the rural areas development. But now we have just started a new programming period, and now 10 regions have included the provision of these loans supported by European funds. And I'm not focusing exclusively in young people, but the people who are more bound to profit the most are the young people. It also covers the purchase of land, which is another demand from the sector. I have shown here some data about the types of loans, the amount, etc. And I will not go into the detail of those loans and the way we function, but we have talked about all the synergies that we might look for, and I cannot miss the key role of local action groups within the territories. I will not go into much detail, but I would like to highlight that the closest to the territory, the better you can design the solutions. This has already been said too. We need to get to know the territories. We need to know the specificities of each of the rural areas. And we believe that those groups can receive the rural development funds, and they are a very powerful tool. We need to also explore the possibilities that the groups might have through other funding and other ways of financing. We have gathered here a series of projects that are being developed at the moment for the support of the rural youth. I was invited here to talk about the youth and the support towards the youth, and this is why I've gathered here many initiatives that are aimed at solving their needs. I cannot elaborate on each of them, but these groups are also working on fending for the needs of the elderly. This is not something, the situation in which we are at the moment cannot be seen as a threat, but as an opportunity. Unfortunately, the rural world is aging, and the potential of the silver economy, the economy of the elderly, is really great. So all these local action groups are looking at what are the needs in the rural areas of the youth and also of the elderly. I don't know if I could convey all the ideas that I wanted to present very clearly. These are the link. This is the link to the Ministry of Agriculture where you can see more information.
Muchísimas gracias, Carolina.
Muchísima información, muchísimos
A
proyectos y
lot of
muchísimo
information,
compromiso, yo creo, con
great number of
los
projects,
jóvenes en el
an
territorio.
important commitment with the youth
My
around
apologies,
the
Maria,
territory.
because I changed the order of the session, and the idea is that Maria Gargano is a researcher of the Egmont Institute, intervened after the Deputy Chief of Cabinet of Dubravna Suica. Thank you very much for joining to us. When I start thinking about the priorities of the Spanish presidency, from the Spanish representation called me and put me in my mind the existence of the Egmont Institute, that you are working in the transition challenge, and I was delighted to be participating in some of your seminars. So for us, it was very important that you join to this community of knowledge, of this community of analysis. So thank you very much. The floor is yours.
Well, thank you very much, Hannah. Thank you to ESPON and to the Spanish presidency for having me here. In fact, we gladly had your presence during our workshops, at the beginning, actually, of our workshop this January. In fact, my institute has started since last year in cooperation with the Cabinet of Vice President Suica for Demography and Democracy and with Desha to work on on how our society would change due to demographic transformation, and how we could look at perspectives of adaptation in terms of human capital, territories, and local authorities, as well as on the global level. And I will spare you from very hard data on the transition, and I will just jump into an example from which we can kind of draw some reflection. It's an old example which has cars in it, but we can think it's electric cars. So suppose that I'm driving through a two-lane tunnel, and both lanes are going the same direction, and I run into a serious traffic jam. No car moves in either lane, as far as I can see, which is not very far, apart from the left lane. And I see at a certain point that this left lane, next to me, is starting to move. Naturally, my spirits lift, and I feel relieved, because I know there is some perspective for me that the traffic jam has been broken, and I will finally advance too. But even if I still sit in the traffic jams because my lane is not moving, I feel better. And but suppose that this expectation is disappointed. Only the lane next to me keeps moving. In this case, along with the people in my own lane, we feel that's a foul play, and many of us at certain points are furious and want to correct this manifest injustice by taking direct action. Might be illegal, crossing on the other lane. But this example to me leads to a couple of reflections. The first is that as the driver, I feel way happier when I think that I have an horizon to look at. And although the results for me are still unknown, I feel there is a positive narrative that is being built up. And I feel that these efforts, there have been a lot of efforts to create positive narratives for places that, as we have been talking since this morning, have often felt left behind, or as we know, the geography of this content. But I have also to say that the creation of narratives in terms of authentic experience, places of tradition, work from South is an example in Italy, often opened the door to a lot of speculation and in tourism, construction sector, and it leaves a lot of the needs, the original needs of these places unmatched. And often cycles of projects are not enough to match those needs and to have a longer perspective on them. But let's keep on the second reflection on our driver. I am the driver, and I also check at the development of the lane next to me, so my neighbors. And this is important to consider in this context because territories have to compete among themselves for services often when the total provision of services is diminishing because the per capita the cost of per capita services such as health or education are increasingly high for those areas. And if we skip a little bit the data on this, because we can talk about them over dinner, but I think it's important to keep in mind that this can lead in the future with a smaller tax base to lower quality of this service, and that this competition needs to be addressed at these roots. And in fact, it could, if it's not done so, it could hinder the results of future cooperation among the areas. So on the third, third observation from our example, and which is the core of today's intervention, or at least on my side. So if, as a citizen, my basic needs are not met, and my basic needs are linked in many European constitutions to my fundamental rights, then why would I participate in the democratic game if I don't feel that that's fair? And in fact, if as a student I have to travel 5 times more to go to a school if I live in a sparsely populated or rural area than if I had to do it in a city, then these are very, very important considerations to make. Then I'll bring some examples from Italy because, they stay on the places of destination and on tourism. We have the Amalfi Coast, amazing, worldly known place. Well, there are villages in there, a specific one which does not have a street that leads to it, and the citizens decided to act quite strongly by giving back their electoral certificates and refusing to consider to be part of that game. So I think that the other side of it is that another example is 7 cities in Italy last administrative elections did not vote because they had no candidates, and often they had no candidates because of candidates don't see the possibilities, they don't have the means. This has been said this morning, and I'll conclude with a bunch of principles that I think should be in our minds when we think and we speak about the areas. The first is that citizens, they need to cooperate among them, and they have to have the structure and the platforms to do it, because they have to own those processes, and the local community needs to be on the driving seats at least in terms of the content. And in fact, as I said, a second principle is that those policies need to be need-based, but also desire-based. The citizens' needs should be at first. And there are examples in which this can be matched. For example, in shrinking territories, we have service provisions that are grouped in one-stop shop. In France, for example, we have Maison de Service Public, or benefit packages for health personnel that move to those areas. The third principle is the awareness. I think that citizens need to be aware of what is possible, what are the limits. And this is a very important first step for these participative processes. The last point is about the strengthening the capacity for those strategies and those projects to be accountable, to be verified, because as was said more than once today, we have to ask ourselves whether local authorities are staffed enough or adequately trained to implement those projects. So, last point, and the feedbacks, as you were saying before, they're very, very important to make those policies relevant and fit for their purpose. And the last conclusion point is this principle can be picked up in any type of actions that policymakers will decide to steer, as the demographic change is not anchored to one or another policy area, and that's often a challenge. But it is anchored to territories, and not just the ones we've been mentioning, but all of them. And we know from the data from the last cohesion policy reports that the EU population living in shrinking regions will be, by 2040, 51% of the EU population. Therefore, a lot of those challenges are place-based, and rightfully so, but they're not just that. And I think that it is important to look at these current challenges as much as possible as future opportunities for our territories to cooperate and to learn from each other and to have more inclusive and participated place. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much, Maria. Listening to you, I am thinking one of the questions that our Campo Rural said 2 weeks ago about the difficulties that they live during this experience. But the idea from Campo Rural is not that young people live in the rural areas. Why not? But this is not the final goal. The goal is that they understand what happened in the rural areas, what happened in the interconnection of the rural and urban environment, that they understand that the people that live in the territory have a lot of problems, lack of service, old people with more problems of gender equalities. And in the discussion with them, that is wonderful, I always ask to them one question. If you had the opportunity to lead a project, not a political project in a rural area, do you accept this challenge? Because we need some kind of leadership from young people for managing the different way the territory. And the reflection, maybe I'm tired, I'm so sorry, I was thinking, but I was thinking that because when I go to Sigüenza, to the event of Agriculture Ministry, I have the opportunity to listen to Julia, and I love directly of her, and I go to her and I think, I need that to come to Cuenca, to our event, because Julia and people and person, commitment, as a Julia has, work in that, in the political commitment, in the involvement of the young people in the making decision process. So, Julia, you finalized this session. Maybe only have time to the intervention, but let me check. It's up to you if you have time to talk and then the video. But now it's your turn to speak. Thank you very much, and thank you for coming.
So, hello, my name is Julia, and I represent Lagna-Poca Porolisum, a beautiful mountain area situated in the northwest part of Romania. I am here to talk to you about young people, how we actively involve them in our activities. During this year, we had several events for young people in which we tried to simulate rural youth parliaments. Now I will share you our experience in working with them. We always start with icebreaker activities because it's easier for them to connect with each other, to know the facilitator, and also to try to gain trust between the others. So for example, we give them like a sheet of paper and they have to draw themselves, and after that they have to describe the drawing, of course. Second, we continue with personal development activities. This program includes activities like leadership or personal skills or communication, and they will learn how to increase self-confidence. We are trying to invite almost every time local decision makers because they are talking to them about their experience, about how the local councillors are organized, or maybe how to write a successful project, or how they involve in the community. We also invite guest speakers with expertise from the field of rural administration, because they have the chance to share with young people their insights, and of course to inspire them. After we have open dialogues and feedback session, we encourage this open session and feedback session because the young people could express their ideas and concerns, of course, if they have. We continue with successful outcomes, debates and discussions on relevant topic. They are having pros and cons debates on different topics like volunteering or cyberbullying. And in the last part of the session, we encourage the young people to express their ideas, to propose activities that they feel passionate about it. From this experience, I learned so many things. It's like you meet someone for the first time. At the beginning, it seems to be a little bit shy, but if you are talking in a nice way, they start to share their thoughts and their concerns and so on. I realized that young people have so many great ideas, but of course they need the right support. We want to use these ideas to help to make our rural areas, but all, of course, not only our rural areas from Romania, but all the world to be a better place. That's pretty cool and inspiring. Of course, that during these sessions, we faced with some challenges and some opportunities. I will start with the challenges. One would be limited access to information or resources such as transportation, or opportunities such as internships. Lack of representation and education and awareness, it's another challenges. we identified also some opportunities for addressing these challenges. The first one would be digital connectivity, internet access, a better connectivity to internet access would be great, of course, for the young people from rural area to connect online, to join to online webinars or forums. Community-based initiative, we try to offer local support for local NGOs, and of course mentorship and capacity buildings. The least but not the least, I will try to finish with some policy recommendation. One would be youth-focused funding and resources. It's very important to allocate funding and resources for the young people from rural areas in order to create training programs and meeting spaces for their meetings, of course. Maybe we can develop a clear guideline and organize a competition, why not, and reward the best ideas. Another policy recommendation would be digital inclusion and connectivity. Invest in rural digital infrastructure to make sure that youth can have access to internet and digital tools. It's very important to have a good connectivity to join the rural youth parliament, to join online. They can talk with each other, they can find out, of course, a lot of information on the internet. And maybe we can, to start, we can provide grants to the young people with low income. So they can have access to the internet, and we can help them to buy some computers, why not? And of course that we also can offer training programs, so in order to gain digital tools. And the last policy recommendation would be youth capacity building and mentorship. Develop programs for rural youth interested in participating in rural youth parliaments. These programs should focus on leadership or public speaking, why not? Or other type of communication, personal development, and so on. These policy recommendations aim to create a good environment for rural youth to actively engage them in rural parliaments, so their voices can be heard. So, in the conclusion, it's very important to invest in our young people, and of course to give them the right support. Thank you very much for your attention. I do also have a video, a 5-minute video, if you still have a little bit of patience. I don't know, Juana, if we still have time. Okay.
Salut, numele meu este Moroiu Sebastian Daniel, sunt din Rodna, dar fac parte din liceul teoretic Solomon Haliță și sunt încântat să pot participa la acest proiect.
Noi, ca elevi, învățăm foarte mult pentru a ajunge ca cei din urban sau pentru a atinge un anumit scop. Cred că putem apropia prin aceste tipuri de evenimente copiii care sunt în mediul urban, de cei din mediul rural, deoarece și aceștia învață despre mediul nostru, dar și noi învățăm cum să aducem cumva mediul nostru mai aproape de mediul urban.
Am venit aici pentru a înțelege cum funcționează galurile, dar mai ales să înțeleg cum pot să-mi ajut comunitatea. Sunt un om implicat în mai multe tipuri de voluntariat, lucrez la înființarea unui cenaclu în București și, printre altele, vreau să înțeleg cum pot extinde influența pe care o am în cadrul acestor activități extrașcolare la un nivel rural. Din acest motiv doresc să îmi extind area de muncă și în nivelul rural.
Am fost invitată de niște prieteni de familie să venim să dezbatem pe subiectul dezvoltării tineretului în mediile rurale și să spunem un cuvânt în numele nostru.
Consider că este foarte important, deoarece tinerii aduc viitorul și tinerii trebuie educați de mici și când reușești să te întâlnești cu persoane care deja știu ce se întâmplă și deja gândesc destul de matur sau au idei bune și așa, poți să discuți unul cu altul despre aceste chestii și poți să-ți îmbunătățești anumite perspective sau să schimbi perspectiva altora sau să-ți fie schimbată ție și să te implici mai mult eventual.
Pentru a dezvolta tinerii care poate nu au avut o șansă la un mediu destul de bun, atât în familie cât și din comuna din care fac parte, să mă dezvolt pe mine și să îi ajut așa cum pot eu, din informațiile pe care eu le-am câștigat, să le dau mai departe. Da, o să mă ajute să mă dezvolt atât eu cât și pe cei din jurul meu, pentru că după experiența de astăzi și după toate subiectele discutate și dezbătute la workshop-ul precedent, am aflat atât despre mediul rural din alte țări, la apelul pe Zoom cu doamna care a vorbit în engleză și am ascultat cum se întâmplă și altundeva, atâta cât ne dezvoltă și capacitatea de a ne gândi că sunt copii care au nevoie de ajutorul nostru și prin proiectele pe care le faceți, ne ajutați atât pe noi cât și pe ei.
Din punctul meu de vedere, consider că schimbările care ar trebui să fie aduse în zone rurale ar fi implicarea mai multă în digitalizare, cum ar fi și în școli, dar și în afară, asfaltarea drumurilor. Un lucru de care nu m-aș atinge în schimb este natura, pentru că, după părerea mea, dezvoltarea se oprește, adică nu se oprește continuă, dar trebuie să dezvoltăm cu limite. Pentru că dacă dezvoltăm orice fără să ne gândim la consecințe, se pot ajunge la lucruri rele. Și zic că am putea...
Thank you very much for this testimony. Julia, your 30 seconds, please.
Yes, one more thing. If there are legs in the room that would like to join in our cooperation project, we are open it. So just let me know. Thank you so much.
So thank you very much for the speaker, for the participant. We close the day. I only want to share with you that today, I don't know, it's a coincidence, but today is an important day in Spain because now is debating the election of the, I hope, again, new president of the government. And I can check the speech of the acting president of the Spanish government, Pedro Sánchez, that he talked about intermediary cities, medium and sized cities, town, demographic challenge, young people, and to provide the public service in 30-minute territories. So I very aligned today with another debate in Madrid. So thank you very much, Hannah.
So, yeah, we're coming to a close. I will definitely spare you from the closure speech that I had prepared. It's been a long and fruitful day, and I want to extend my thank you to every speaker, moderator, and participant. We have all contributed to today's session's success. And just a couple of things. We hope you join us for the gala dinner. I remind you that it's at 8:30 p.m. at the Parador. And also, I want to remind you that tomorrow you will have available the shuttle service to come from Cuenca to Mupa, and I hope you're ready for another day packed with knowledge, with insights, and with bright ideas. See you tomorrow, and I hope later in the gala dinner. And you have the bus shuttle service waiting for you outside. Thank you.